Welcome everybody. Al Levine, the talking machine, back after his kidney transplant. Yes, if you didn't know, my kidneys were functioning at 15% for 3 years. I pulled a smoking Jim and didn't tell anybody. My son donated a great kidney. It started me peeing from the minute it was in, and it continues to this day. Got operated on Friday the 13th, my son and I. Successful surgery, although my surgery was a little extended, 9 hours. They found a bad artery in my leg, had to repair that with a cadaver and grafted it. And I'm recovering fully. I'm able to walk. I'm getting about. We were let out last Monday, so I won't get into details about poop, but I did leave without pooping. And I know it's tough to talk about it, but as you get older, you talk about those things. And they brought that up in the hospital, and 2 days later, I went back in, and they got it all out of me. So I'm healthy again. I'm on the mend. I'm feeling better. Thanks for all the good wishes, prayers, and support. I appreciate all that. And we're going to get on with the show. We continued our streak last week. Thanks go to Dave Cable, John O'Prasak. You got Andy Amrine and Elaine Volpe. They did the show in honor of us here and carried on. We have Jono's painting behind us. I don't know if the camera can get that. Right behind Chip's head. Three Rivers Stadium. Jono painted that, and Three Rivers, I remember a lot of fond memories of games and championships there. So that'll be on our show for the next few months. So enjoy Jono's artwork. Next we have Chip Hayner here. I don't know if you saw him. We got Chip, and we got Smoking Jim Frazier. The gang's all here. We got plenty of sports for you. I got some promos. First up, we'll see what they did with the camera work. There we go.
Spot on.
Olive Oil's Pizzeria, 412-831-1800. They sponsor our Pittsburgh Sportsline TV show, and it's a live Pittsburgh Sportsline in the Bethel Park studio. We appreciate that. I end each show with Stay Joey Strong. This is Joey before DIPG, after DIPG with the brain cancer. He died before his 10th birthday. They just had the 5K run, the first one I missed in 5 years. It was a great success. Over 500 people were there, so they made some money to send to the doctors, which is great. Thanks to all who participated in that. Heard it was a great day. Thanks to Amy Taylor for filling in for the talking machine. She did one heck of a job and may have out-talked even the talking machine.
Doubtful.
So that was close. I watched the whole thing, but thanks, Chip. Next up is the Bethel Park Historical Society Schoolhouse Arts and History Center, 2600 South Park Road. Can't miss it. My favorite tea shop is Reginald's Coffee. Check them out. That's 2600 South Park Road. They do a lot of events. I think they have an open house coming on October 13th. Jessica Lee and Mark Strickland are supposed to play there. And Al Levine, the talking machine, will probably show up at that day at the Bethel Park Historical Society. Stay tuned. Next up, the Community Foundation. Bethel Park Community Foundation has money for you, $100 to $5,000 for your group that's doing great things in Bethel Park. Go to bpcf.org, get an application. I'm one of the trustees. We meet Thursday night this week. Get that application, come on in, make your presentation. You can get money for your group. Next up, Dave Cable likes making fun of me, believe it or not. Here I am as Uncle Al instead of Uncle Sam. I want you for BPTV. You could be like Steve. You could be like Zach. You could be like Jack and be volunteers working on the cameras and audio, making us look good and sound good. So thank you, guys. Call 412-831-3304 and tell Dave, Uncle Al, the talking machine, wants me to be a volunteer. And you can do that. So check that out. Next up, we have a sponsor for our show. What's on Your Mind? Skeets Lewandowski. It's right past Trax Farm in Mineral Beach, past the Dairy Queen. 724-348-4715. Tell Skeets you've got something that runs on gas. They work on anything and everything that runs on gas. They have a great forge. They have all kinds of things. They make products and different hooks for Smoking Jim's awards that he gets for Hall of Fame. He can hang them on his wall. You just never know. But that's good. Hey, I got to tell you, thanks for watching us on Comcast 7 in Bethel Park. Thanks for watching us on Verizon 32 in Bethel Park and all the way from Nemacolin to Cranberry, Wexford. Thanks for all the likes. 6,888 likes. So I appreciate you watching our show and liking our page. We're going to start with What's on Your Mind? Smoking Jim Frazier.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green,
coming at you.
Oh, man! Oh, took my eyes off the prize.
That folks, was Jim Moncrief.
Oh, man, yeah.
That was Jim Moncrief.
I was going the other way with it.
He got
Did you tip it?
Little alligator arm there.
Did you tip it out the way?
Jim saw the linebacker.
Unbelievable. He's so excited to see me back. He blinked.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness.
That's a Pittsburgh Sportsline first.
That's a first. Never has that happened.
But hey, welcome back, Al Levine, the talking machine. I tell you what, you caused me a lot of prayer, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good to see you also, Chipper. And I tell you what, just real quick, I had to give up on them. Anytime you with a 14-year-old and you say you thought she was 16-year-old, listen, if you're still 16, you're still underage. Listen, I'm giving up on the Pirates. I don't mind you.
Hold it. When did you believe in him?
You know what? I'm a Pirate fan, but I don't mind you drinking and driving, and I don't mind you pitching on LSD. I don't even mind you throwing batteries, but I had to draw the line somewhere. I'm going to let the Pirates know until they get themselves together, don't send me any free tickets. On the sour note, we got the City League, 6th Annual City League Hall of Fame on November 2nd. It'll be another sellout. I have to reiterate, like I say every year, that Curtis Martin ain't getting in as long as I'm on the committee. Big Cat Williams ain't getting in while I'm on the committee. Russell Friedman, former starting left tackle for the Denver Broncos, ain't getting in as long as I'm on the committee. I added a couple new people for negativity. Dwight Iceman Clay will never get in. And
what did he do?
Jimmy, too negative. And Jimmy Lincoln, the former great Georgia Tech running back, and Bashir Bullets will not get in as long as I'm on the committee for negativity. Listen, the City League Hall of Fame is an honor. I can understand some people disagreeing with who gets in and who got in, and some people should get in sooner or later. But one day this is going to be bigger. It's sold out every year. One day it's going to be bigger than the Dapper Dan.
Really?
We're going to have a room dedicated one day where all your kids and grandkids can come and see you, your name there forever and ever. And if the people want to be negative, they can be added to that will never get in list as well. But what's on my mind? What's on my mind, Al Levine?
What is your point?
Hey, listen, I always told everybody the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers was overrated. I said it was a mistake when they lost the great offensive line coach Munchak, and they hired his coffee boy. Here, listen, I will break down the reason that you got to replace a Mike Munchak with another guy in his experience level. Mike Munchak been in the league for close to 40 years as a player, Hall of Fame player, and as a coach. Listen, when you're a great offensive line coach, you can make adjustments. And that's what the Steelers used to do all the time with their offensive line under Munchak. That's not happening right now. You say if he plays against Buddy Ryan over the years, so he knows when he's going against his sons, Rex and Rob, or he's going against Jeff Fisher, he knows they're going to run a 46 defense. He knows what to do to defeat that. you play against a Dick LeBeau. The Steelers play the Dick LeBeau defense. Don Capers, Jim Haslett, Marvin Lewis, all these guys come under the, Don Capers 3-4 tree, so you know how to defeat that. You know what I mean? The Pittsburgh Steelers right now, they're not making any adjustments. They're not helping the offensive line out at all. These guys are confused. The offensive line coach, listen, just because you worked under somebody, I could have been on a crew of Mario Andretti. Don't mean I can drive 200 miles an hour. The Pittsburgh Steelers made a bad mistake. They should have promoted Munchak to assistant head coach, but Coach Mike Tomlin's arrogance wouldn't allow that. They lost. The biggest piece in the offseason was Mike Munchak, and you can see it, how poorly your offensive line is playing. And that's what's on my mind.
Thanks for finally getting there, Smoking Jim. I couldn't follow you at first. I got a little lost. I'm still loopy from all the meds. I couldn't follow you. But thanks. Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Alan. And first off, I would like to say I feel privileged to be sitting next to Alan Levine, and I am so happy that
Thank
you
you.
came through surgery successful. And I want to give a shout out to this gentleman's son, Drew, who gave up a kidney for his dad. You were an amazing young man. Don't let anybody ever tell you anything different.
Yes, he is.
You did a great job of raising that boy.
Thank you.
I can't say that I disagree with most of what Jim said.
Nobody in my family would have done that.
Well, you know what?
That's good.
It doesn't get any bigger than that. But, we're going to get into more about the Steelers and their 0-3 start in our Steelers segment.
Yeah.
And the end of a very disappointing baseball season is wrapping up with a 6-game homestand, starting with 3 games against Chicago Cubs tonight and 3 games against the Cincinnati Reds this weekend. But something even more significant is happening to the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, and it's something that does need to be made note of. Somebody that has been with the Pirates organization for 60 years is wrapping up his career with the Pittsburgh Pirates, which includes many years as a broadcaster, years as a player, the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the 1971
Jim
World
doesn't know who
Series.
you mean.
Yeah. Steve Blass is hanging up the microphone, and he is retiring at the end of this year. Saturday night will be a tribute to Steve Blass. There's going to be a bobblehead giveaway. There's going to be a tribute to Steve Blass. And even though the Pirates have floundered this year, to lack of a better way to put it, I'd love to see that stadium full on Saturday night to commemorate the contribution Steve Blass has made to the Pittsburgh Pirates, to the city of Pittsburgh, and to baseball fans all around the world. And I think that's something that should be made note of. And, I'm wearing my 1971 Pirates hat that was autographed by Manny St. Jim.
Yeah, look at that.
And I've got a little ace up my sleeve, and I'm hoping to add Mr. Blass's autograph to this hat because Manny was the starting catcher.
Yeah.
Steve Blass pitched a complete game in Game 7, 1971. It would be something that I would treasure very much.
Keepsake, a true keepsake.
If I could make that happen. So I'm going to try, and if you don't ask, nobody's ever going to say yes. But you ask me what's on my mind. Yeah, for all rights and purposes, the season's been over for a month.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's 6 more days of Pirate baseball that I'm going to enjoy. Yes, it has been a disappointing season. It's been an embarrassing season. Jim touched on that with what Felipe Vasquez did, and there can be no explanation, no excuses. And I would love to see that he never plays another game of Major League Baseball again.
That'll probably happen.
A grown man having sex with a child. There's no place for that ever, anywhere, and I hope that his penalties are stiff.
Yeah.
And, you get no sympathy from me here. So, sorry to see that, a young girl was affected by this.
Yeah.
And I think about the victim more than I do about Felipe Vasquez because he's not a victim. He's a criminal as far as I'm concerned. So, you ask me what's on my mind? That's what's on my mind, and I'm going to throw it to Al Levine, and it's great to have him sitting to my right once again.
Thank
Can
you
I say
very
one more
much.
thing before
Of
we go to
course,
Hall of
you
Fame
have
talking
to,
machine?
because you're a fan of the Pirates.
Well, Steve Blass not going to throw the first pitch out, is he?
But I probably won't be a strike. And Jim doesn't know the significance of that.
No.
But that was a little pun intended, at Steve towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
Had a little trouble finding the strike zone.
That ended his career. Smoking Jim doesn't know about it. He only found baseball through this show. He still believes Babe Ruth likes the Pirate fans.
He still thinks Babe Ruth is a candy bar.
He enjoys it all the time. Well, what's on my mind is a dual threat here. The Pirates, the hottest team in losing 9 in a row. Just what a way to end the season. It's just unbelievable what they've gone through. They've shown some nice flashes of young ball players, some decent hitting, some decent pitching, but in general, they just stink. And changes must be made. I don't know if they're going to do it because you just signed Hurdle and the general manager for 3 more years, so I don't think much is going to happen.
2 more after this year.
Okay, yeah, but I mean it was 3 coming into the season, so 2 more years of that. So I don't think, bottom line, Bob's going to pay somebody not to work. And Ray Searage will probably be gone. He'll be the scapegoat during this thing. So we'll see what happens. And in case you didn't know, Smoking Jim really wasn't a Pirate fan all season.
Or ever.
He bet on less than 78 wins, and he's right. So he finally cashed in.
Yeah.
Of course, if he made the right bet, which he's known to make a few wrong ones, so he may have missed that. Then he's been right about the Steelers since Big Ben's career might be over. It's shades of Terry Bradshaw when his arm went bad and he couldn't play anymore. But we'll see. Ben's determined to come back. It's just shocking that our defense was bad, even though we got 5 turnovers. The offense was bad. They couldn't score more than 6 points. So it makes you wonder about the whole state of the team because it's not a very good team right now and they're not playing that well. TJ Watt, I don't know if he's the best linebacker we ever had.
Oh, yeah.
But he's playing good this year because he's involved in some plays, and we did get some turnovers. So I'm hopeful on that end, but I don't see him scoring after they get the ball back, no matter where it is on the field. So that's a huge problem, and I still believe black and gold, and I'm peeing very well. So we'll continue the show with that, and we'll be back with some fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. Thanks, Chip Hayner. Thanks, my man, the Rookie of the Year, Steve Fisher, and my man, Jax out there. And I believe my boy from Gateway, Zach Taylor's in the house as well.
No, the other
Lozzie?
Zach.
Lozzie
The other
here?
Zach.
Other
The
Zach's
one
here?
that told me about the Becky he found.
Is he here too?
Zach is here.
I didn't see the other Zach.
You didn't look for him. And you're having vision troubles anyhow.
Well, what's on my mind is, back in the day, this is I'll kind of compound this a little bit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but back when Terry Smith, the assistant head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions, got the head coaching job at Gateway, the first call he made was to me. They asked me to be one of his assistant coaches. I quickly said no, and one of the main reasons
Well, you can't use your government name.
yeah, one of the main reasons he asked, I coached most of those guys when they were in Midget League football before I got fired for running up the score on all the teams. And but I made a suggestion to him. I said, Terry, my suggestion for you would be to make a phone call to Coach Pete Annamarino and bring back some of the legendary coaches to stand with you and help you early on, because Gateway really was in bad shape in football. That's what he did. He brought back 3 or 4 of the old-time retired coaches, including Pete Annamarino for 2 seasons, and they never looked back. It was one of the greatest football eras of all time. And I say that to say this. Coach Tomlin and I won't say we're friends anymore, but we're friendly. I got a little bit too much dirt on most people for them to unfriend me.
Wow.
Because they never know when I might say it on air. But we're friendly, and he made a lot of mistakes. Coach Bill Cowher, maybe the greatest coach in NFL history. He made one bad mistake in his career. Back when he backstabbed Ron Earhart. Ron Earhart was the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And later in his career, Coach Cowher made the decision to fire Ron Earhart so that he could promote Chan Gailey to offensive coordinator because he thought he'd lose him to another team. And I said at that time that was the wrong thing to do. You should have promoted Ron Earhart to assistant head coach and allow Chan Gailey to be the offensive coordinator, because if you remember, Chan Gailey did wonders with Cordell Stewart, but once he left, nobody could continue to run that system. He was that good. You didn't have Ron Earhart, who was the architect of that system. And I said that to say this. The problem with Coach Mike Tomlin, again, anybody that thinks he does anything other than standing around on the sideline, which is okay. He's never have any paper in his hands. He never has a pencil or pen in his hand. You know what I mean? For anybody to think he's doing anything offensively.
He's a smart guy. You don't need that.
Yeah, defensively or special teams. I never knew what he did, but he was always smart enough to have the best defensive coordinators, the best offensive coordinators, and some pretty good assistant coaches. But he got to the point where he got so arrogant and he got so tired of people giving all the credit on the defense to Dick LeBeau, all the credit on the offense to Bruce Arians, that now if you look at the makeup of his coaching staff, there's not one coach that will ever be pursued as a head coach in the National Football League. We predicted, and Chip and I talked before the show, that I told everybody that Butler was no defensive coordinator. All he was a linebacker coach till he was 60 years old. You have to be a special breed to be a defensive coordinator. You have to be able to think on your feet. You got to be able to devise a plan. You know, they blew it again with Mike Munchak. The Steelers and other teams have made Russ Grimm assistant head coach. Assistant head coach don't mean, it just means you're getting a little bit more money and you have a little bit more involvement in the game plan week to week. For them not to promote Mike Munchak, who had 40 years in the NFL, he's a Hall of Famer. He was a head coach for many years for the Tennessee Titans. For them to let him walk away, the Pittsburgh Steelers deserve what they got. I'm glad Terry Smith listened to me and brought back some legends. And his arrogance wasn't too big to humble himself and do that. Of course, he did the right thing by making me the first call. But that's the fictional fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac. The arrogance of Coach Tomlin is showing his ugly head again, rearing his ugly head again.
Thanks for pointing that out, Smoking Jim. Another positive segment by Smoking Jim Frazier.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and well, let's just call that fiction with Jim, and we'll leave it at that. But you know, I was talking to Al and to Jim off the air, and you know, after everything everything positive that Jim has said about the Pirates this year, which is nothing at all. You know, I made a rash prediction because I've been known to do these, hence the nickname The Prophet. And my point of view is here. The Pirates are playing the Chicago Cubs tonight. Everybody looks at Joe Madden as being a genius. Well, here's what my bold prediction is, that Clint Hurdle will keep his job and Joe Madden will not. What do you think about that? Wow. Come the end of the season, Joe Madden, with the baseball team with the most talent, the biggest payroll of any team in Major League Baseball, will not even qualify for a wild card position. So That's my bold prediction for that. So, while Jim's taking the opportunity to kick the Steelers while they're down and let him enjoy himself, because it won't be for long. The Steelers will turn it around. That is what my humble opinion is. So what I tried to do is I wanted to see, is this the first time that the Steelers have started off on what could be considered one of their most disappointing seasons? Ooh. So that leads me to, I've got 5 of the most disappointing seasons in Steelers history. Now, what are we going to use as a measuring stick for determining what a disappointing season is? There's, think about this. Let me see where I find this. The Steelers have, I do believe, 7 losing seasons in the last 41 years.
Is that all?
Yes.
Wow. They don't want to be great, just 8-8.
None of them by the arrogant Mike Tomlin. Now, 4 of them, I believe, were by the greatest coach in the history of the NFL, Bill Cowher. Is that not how it goes? Well, here's something that I think
thanks, Chip. I appreciate the facts.
Needs to be said about Bill Cowher, and as soon as I stumble across it here, let's see. Okay, the stair. So what? Most disappointing. Okay. Bill Cowher started off his career, and he started off on a winning note. And of course, he started off on a winning note with players that Chuck Noll drafted. Oh, doesn't that sound like something that Jim said about our dear friend Mike Tomlin, how he won with Bill Cowher's players?
I heard that.
Yeah, and once again, how many championships did Bill Cowher win? He was 1-6 in AFC championship games. Now, there are some honorable mentions in what is some of the most disappointing seasons in Steeler history. One would start right after the greatest play in NFL history in 1972. 1 week removed from the Immaculate Reception, the Steelers fell to the Miami Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. Larry Seipel's fake punt attempt turned the tide of a contest being dominated by Pittsburgh, leading Miami to victory en route to the only undefeated season in NFL history. And then there's 1976. 1976 was a great year, and actually, from members of the Steelers team of the 70s, they say that this was their best team of the decade, and it is a team that did not win a championship. The unparalleled Steel Curtain anchored a defensive unit that surrendered only 28 points during a 9-game winning streak. Wow. After rallying from a 1-4 start. Could you repeat that for me, Jim? 1-4 start, the greatest team in Steeler history. And they returned to the AFC Championship game for a 3rd straight bout with the Oakland Raiders. However, the Raiders took Pittsburgh to task 24-7 in a contest that did not feature Franco Harris or Rocky Bleier. And then there's 1985, 86, and 88, sandwiched between the dynasty of the 70s and the Cowher Power era of the 90s. The Steelers of the 80s were anemic by comparison. Some of the great players of the dynastic decade played into the next 10 years, such as Stallworth, Lambert. Likewise, many of Cowher's best players were Chuck Noll draftees, including Greg Lloyd and Rod Woodson. Then there you go to 1989, another season that started off inauspiciously for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 51-0 to the Browns, and then they lost 41-10 to the Bengals by a combined score of 91-10. This squad that was a long shot to make the playoffs, but overcame odds in legendary head coach Chuck Noll's last hurrah in the playoffs. The Steelers beat the Oilers in the House of Pain, costing Jerry Glanville his head coaching job. And after he lost his head coaching job, he was no longer able to leave tickets for Elvis at the front gate.
Yes.
And then there's 1993. Okay, the following succession of words tells the entire story of heartbreak to end the 1993 season. Wild card playoffs, Arrowhead Stadium, Joe Montana, fourth down, fourth quarter, game on the line, overtime, Joe Montana wins again. Then there's 1994, 1995, 1997, 2001, 2004. Oh, does that also coincide with the greatest coach in Steeler history? You would think that he and I talked before this. We didn't.
You don't have to.
And let us not forget about the 2010 season when the Steelers lost to the Denver Broncos on, and who was the quarterback of that team, Jim? Tim Tebow. So we're going to go to the top 5 most disappointing seasons. Number 5, Tommy Gunn backfires in 2003. Tommy Gunn, as he would be affectionately dubbed, immediately led the Steelers to fourth quarter comeback and overtime victory against the hated Cleveland Browns in the first playoff game. I was there in a season of passing proficiency, the likes of which Steelers fans hadn't seen for ages. Maddox became the apparent quarterback of the next years. A wily veteran, well, for years the team had the pieces to go all the way. Sans won. The most important one. For a snippet in time, it appeared as though that piece had once been disguised as an insurance salesman and Los Angeles Extreme All-Star. For one beautiful season, Tommy Maddox enjoyed a sort of sequel to the Kurt Warner story. Unfortunately, instead of that storybook ending that placed Warner in 3 Super Bowls and hosting a Lombardi Trophy, Maddox quickly skipped ahead to the chapters where Kurt struggled. Effectively, his story ended right there. Number 4, Cower Power goes sour in 1998. The reason was no more complicated than the players taking on the image of their fiery, focused, no-nonsense head coach. Bill Cowher's success was labeled Cower Power. In his first 6 years, he tied the record for consecutive playoff seasons to start a career. This included 1997. It was a season of change, most notably at quarterback. Cordell Stewart put on his signal caller's hat despite obvious hiccups, like throwing into triple coverage in the AFC Championship game. The kid grew as the season went along and electrified fans along the way. After rallying from a 1-2 start, his season carried on with great acclaim. It was 1990 when the deficiencies in his plays began to fully surface amidst a painful 11 touchdown, 18 interception campaign. Number 3, once again, the greatest coach in the history of the NFL. Cowher's final season in 2006. Sadly, the chin went out with more of a whimper than a bang. His team falling apart into championship defense that was over almost before it began. However, fans that recall Cowher's last campaign will also remember a 2-6 Steelers team rallying back to 500 by beating the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime in the final game of the season just to be 8-8. They weren't great. Number 2, the end of a dynasty in 1980. Didn't the gods of football anoint Pittsburgh the chosen ones with that whole immaculate reception thing? No player deserves a better illustration of a gap between high expectations, lesser final results than John Stallworth in 79 and 80. At the end of a fruitful decade, Stallworth had once reflected on his relationship with receiving peer Lynn Swann. A lot of times we weren't competing against opposing teams. We were competing against each other to see who'd catch the most passes, to see who'd make that great move to get open that we could look at later and say, ooh. On the NFL highlight video of Super Bowl 13, you can hear the voice of God, John Facenda, otherwise known as The Voice, describing Stallworth as being like a combination of sipping whiskey and white lightning, smooth with a strong finishing kick.
Wow.
Never did he show off his prowess on a grander stage than in Super Bowl 14. However, his absence was certainly one of a series of factors that deflated the 1980 team. The expectation entering 1980, fueled by a decade of dominance, was not one for the thumb. It was one for the thumbs and then some. By season's end, it was apparent some of the squad's swagger was absent and both thumbs remained naked. Number one, the Steelers self-destruct between 2 Super Bowl seasons in 2009. The Steelers have won 6 Super Bowls. Following 3 of those championships, the team made the playoffs, and twice they defeated with another ring. Thrice the team has failed to make the playoffs altogether. What puts 2009 atop this list is 3 factors. Firstly, the Steelers fell apart in this campaign between 2 Super Bowl seasons. Having the ability to make it to the big game just 1 year after this implosion shows that the team didn't lose its swagger. Instead, they had a bitterly disappointing campaign sandwiched between 2 historic playoff runs. This was a Super Bowl caliber roster that fell short. Secondly, like his predecessor, the team had showcased a fiery will to win under sophomore head coach Mike Tomlin. To that point, he knew nothing but success and was a great ambassador for the Steelers' way. Failure was not part of the Tomlin lexicon in early 2009. Lastly, this was the year in which his fall from grace was most sudden. The Steelers looked like gangbusters in 5 straight victories, peaking with a dominant 28 defensive performance against a 6-1 Broncos team. At Invesco Field, it was apparent the pieces were in place for another chance. The team was 6-2, and only complete and an utter meltdown in the second half would unhinge their grasp. The black and gold were black and bold, were they, as it quickly takes to turn off the lights. Well, the lights went out. Following a disappointing loss to the Bengals, dropped the record to 6-3. The Steelers lost Roethlisberger and for that matter, Charlie Batch, and entered Dennis Dixon. Locker room murmurings. A week later, the team officially fell to 6-6. So to make a long story short, we've got 5 of the most disappointing seasons in Steeler history. And because the Steelers have tripped going out of the starting blocks this season, everything looks bleak. I am a true believer, and I do believe that the Steelers will turn this around this season. The problems that the Steelers are having right now are fixable. The problems with the offensive line can be fixed. They need to get back to playing Steeler football. Let's not forget, yes, Mike Munchak was a great coach, and he wasn't run out of town. He left of his own free will. He wanted to go be with his family, which happens to be in Denver. But the Steelers still had 3 of their 5 offensive linemen in the Pro Bowl last year. And they didn't forget how to play ball, and they just need to get it back on track again. It starts Monday night here at Heinz Field against Cincinnati.
Can I say one thing?
No,
before
2
we go
things.
to elevator talk
Absolutely.
machine? The 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers will crack that top 5, buddy.
Again, Mr. Negativity.
And you know what? That's what
He's on his A game.
That's what makes this world a beautiful place, where everybody's entitled to their opinion.
We're watching history.
And his outlandish statements, although he says he's always true and correct, we've seen some variances in that, and we'll see that again this year. Thank you, Smoking Jim, for the one statement. Of course, it was negative. Thanks for pumping me up. On location, believe it or not, we're going back to the VFW in Millvale on next Monday, the 30th. We'll be there in Millvale at the VFW 118 605 North Avenue. Check it out. We got guests from South Park Boxing Club coming. Got some other guests lined up, so it should be a great show. And they just treat us very well there. Jose Carabella is great. And they had pizza from Frankie's Pizza last time, which is legendary in Millvale. So even Smoking Jim was impressed by the pizza once he made it there.
Yeah, well, it's his favorite kind of pizza.
Free.
Free. And free light.
He hasn't had one bad meal ever. But yeah, we got on location there. And then come October, the second Monday of October, we'll be back at Olive Oil's Pizzeria. Can't wait to do that. And that's what we have on the agenda right now. we had to cancel our Monsville Penitentiary fights. I wasn't up for the game to go to Monsville and travel, although Smoking Jim said he'd drive me there. I was a little hesitant on being 2 hours late. And the sun was shining that day, so I figured the best thing was to cancel it, and it seemed to work out well. They're going to have us do a show in January, Smoking Jim.
All right.
Did you make it to the fights?
I didn't make it.
I knew that. He's not traveling well, folks. He won't tell me what's wrong with him ever since he had that car accident and brain surgery, but somehow he's recovered. So just pray for Smoking Jim. But that's our on locations coming up, and we're getting little feedback that other places want to have us there. I had a friend, Judge Arnone, drove me to pick up a book. My book came in at Barnes & Noble, and he goes, "Do you need a ride?" I said, "I just got notified I got a book there. Would you take me there?" So Judge Arnone loves me. He brought me to Barnes & Noble. He even treated me on buying the book, and it's a great book.
Wow.
Smoking Jim doesn't know what it's like, but I'm already into the first chapter of it, so...
Negro League Baseball?
No, it's a book about the sense of smell and how people do it for perfume, how they're experts and they come up with fragrances because they can smell, unlike Smoking Jim.
Who would want to read that?
I do. I do. It's a good book, very educational. But that's my story there. But the part about it that ties into Pittsburgh Sportsline is we have a coming attraction that we're going to do a show with Judge Arnone. Wow. Coming up maybe in November. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fundraiser, and it's going to be at a local establishment in Bethel Park. I can't say right now, but he set it all up for us like he did the Steel Cactus Grill. So the judge is always welcome to help out Pittsburgh Sportsline, and he's on board again. We'll probably do a show in November, so we'll give you updates as we get closer, and it'll be a good show. Okay, we're going to come back and talk some Steeler talk. Hopefully they can gear that up here in the studio. And we'll be here to end the show.
We're in the Stanley Cup final for the second year in a row, and here's Yager with the puck. Yager, nice move around right center to the backhand. Let's it go, he scores!
All right, welcome back, Steeler Talk.
They were like,
I got nothing good to say. I watched the whole game, every minute. I was recovering. I was in pain, and I was in pain watching the game. I loved all the turnovers. I was pumped up to see that. But when we only scored 6 points, I knew we were in trouble the whole game. Matter of fact, I had the feeling that no matter how well we were playing, the second half would not be ours.
Good point.
well,
I just felt that way the whole game.
Well, here's what my take was on the game. And, Jim touched on one aspect of it in his opening commentary. And, the Steelers, they need to be committed to the run. And the offensive line has to impose their will on the opposing team's defensive line. And, I did not see that happen. And the Steelers' running game right now is anemic at best. And especially with a young quarterback, you need to build everything off of your running game. And that means that the first 2 times you hand the ball off and the runner gets stuffed, you keep going back to the well. And the offensive line did 2 things that I feel that they had no business doing. A, they didn't run block, and B, they didn't pass block, okay? Mason Rudolph was under pressure. He didn't get a chance to go through his reads. Now, Ben Roethlisberger, all the years, he can progress through his reads, boom, 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 boom. Mason Rudolph, I think Mason Rudolph's going to be fine. I think he got a little more comfortable in the second half.
Yeah.
And was utilizing some of the talent that he has, obviously Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
But, what I didn't see was a commitment to the run. And if Coach Randy is as good of an offensive coordinator as he's supposed to be, you need to build everything off of your running game, and you got to keep going to the running game because that is what has been the Steelers' bread and butter. Secondly, first half, the Steelers got 5 turnovers, okay? Or was it 4 turnovers? 4. They got 4 turnovers in the first half, okay? Now, the thing that upset me the most is after somebody got an interception, they run into the end zone, and they're clowning for a group picture, and I'm sitting here screaming at the television set, you are 0-2. You haven't done anything yet. What are you clowning for for a picture like, hooray, look at me? You know what? When you need to be able to make a play is in the fourth quarter, and in 2 straight games, the Steelers took the lead late in the fourth quarter and could not hold it. Okay?
Yeah.
James Conner coughed up the ball, on the 25-yard line, but the Steelers' defense needed to come up and make a play then. Okay? And maybe if you make the play that wins the game, maybe then you've earned the right to clown and pose for a picture. And I hold the coach responsible for allowing that to happen. This team was 0-2. Guess what they are now? 0-3. Before anybody mugs for the camera or sits there and goes, hooray and look at me, and I thought we got rid of that problem, they need to win games and make consistent plays. And we got to make plays in the fourth quarter when it matters the most. And those are 2 things that I saw that the Steelers team didn't do, and that is why they lost that game.
Right.
San Francisco did everything they could to hand the game off to them. I give Mason Rudolph a bit of a bye on not being able to capitalize on all the opportunities he got in the first half. This is his first start in the NFL, okay? If anybody's going to be a little gun shy, yeah. But the offensive coordinator should have got with his offensive line and said, I need you to bulldoze these guys, and he didn't. They didn't get it. They didn't open any holes for the running backs, and when he had to fade back to pass, he had to scramble
pressure.
because he didn't have chance to progress through his reads. Does that sound like I hit the nail on the head, Jim?
Very good.
What's your point?
Very good points.
What's your point?
Well, I just want to, first of all, make a bold statement. Here's a prediction. Look for Antonio Brown to be the highest paid player in football history with the XFL. I believe he's going to the XFL, and I believe that he probably already got a deal in place with the McMahons. Hey, listen.
Vince already said he didn't want nothing to do with him.
Vince McMahon got $3 billion, and
And
he'll part with 3% of that
yeah, but he
$30
also
million
remembers why the XFL fell in the first place, because of having players like Antonio Brown.
Well, they got bad guys in wrestling all the time. So
But this is
that's
not
what
wrestling,
sells
this is
tickets.
football.
Extreme football. That's what it's called.
But
That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
you know what? I think
It'll come true.
I think Jim A brought up a great point. Now, Antonio Brown, I kind of feel like him, like he ruined his football career. But here's the thing I find most amusing about Antonio Brown. He's crying because he claims that the Oakland Raiders and the New England Patriots screwed him out of $40 million because he had guaranteed money. Well, maybe it is good that Antonio Brown's going back to college. And the sad part of it is he's taking online courses, which means that he's not taking the courses himself, because if he would have ever stayed in a classroom and learned how to read, he would read the wording on the contract that says your behavior dictates whether or not you get paid.
Good
and the
point.
Patriots and the Raiders both were within their rights to exercise their clauses in the contract. They forced him to not get paid. So, instead of whining about teams that screwed you out of your money, it was your own self that did this to you. And good luck getting that degree.
Well, he'll make all that money up in the XFL. But what I see from the Pittsburgh Steelers, I told everybody on draft day it was bad business to move up for a 5'11" middle linebacker that's a finesse guy. I call him Devin for 11 Bush because every time he makes a tackle, the referee is saying first down. Listen, this is a guy that gave up 2 touchdowns a week ago to the tight ends. He'll never be able to cover tight ends. He did recover a couple of fumbles because it was fumbled forward, and he was nowhere near the ball carrier, so he was able to fall on the football. It's the only thing he could do. Listen, I said before, when you play a 3-4 defense, the middle linebacker at best is the 5th most important position on that defense. Right outside linebackers, number 1, we still don't have one with Bud Dupree. Left outside linebackers, number 2, which we got the greatest linebacker in Steeler history in T.J. Watt. Number 3 is strong safety. Number 4 is nose guard. and maybe number 5 is middle linebacker along with a cornerback, a shutdown cornerback. The Pittsburgh Steelers, their problem is they did not play, well enough in the preseason. Listen, they were doing things in the preseason that you just don't do. Was BS. Preseason is vanilla offense, vanilla defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers was running stunts. They're blitzing. Bud Dupree looked like Lawrence Taylor, and I said right then, I said, these guys are not game planning for that. Nobody does that. There's an unwritten law in the NFL that you don't do things like that. They could have gotten somebody hurt. Now, when teams are game planning for them, Bud Dupree is invisible.
Tuitt was showing up.
Yeah, Tuitt, he probably
showed up.
He probably won't make another play the rest of the year. Where's Hayward? Hayward's having a bad first 3 games, horrible first 3 games. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers is giving away their draft. They already did it this draft. Now you're giving away maybe a top 10 pick to get Fitzpatrick, who I love. But Fitzpatrick is basically a strong safety that's being forced to play free safety because the Steelers already got a strong safety. Terrell Edmonds with 2% body fat. Maybe he ought to get 4 or 5% body fat so he can make some more plays.
Well,
and that cornerback they got from Kansas City is horrible, Nelson.
One of the things that Jim and I were talking about before we went on the air, and one of the things that I happen to agree with him, and I think
say that again.
As time goes on, it is becoming more and more apparent that Keith Butler is not a good defensive coordinator, and this is evidenced by the fact that here's a Steelers defense with either 8 or 9 first-round draft picks, and you cannot tell me he does not have the talent. Yet receivers are running free in the secondary in the fourth quarter. I could complete passes to these receivers. That's how open they are.
Wow.
And, great. You make some plays early in the game, but the game is won in the fourth quarter. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right.
And then against Seattle, 5 minutes and 30 seconds left, the Steelers take the lead. They kick the ball off. And Seattle ran the ball right down their throats and ran the clock out.
Can I ask you guys one question? Not to change the subject. I'm not just saying this because you guys know I love tough white boys. But did you not love that fullback for San Francisco? Is there not a place? He looked like Rathman or one of those guys, number 44. And one time he just threw Fitzpatrick over in the sideline.
That one catch he made, I stood up and I was like, that was one.
Did you hear the pads when he was lead blocking through the hole? You could hear the pads on TV. Most teams don't want a fullback anymore. They're getting rid of the fullback. How important? If you're a football player, there's a place for you.
What are your thoughts about Rosie Nix?
Well, I love Rosie Nix, but Rosie Nix
was hurt.
He was a 4-time all-defensive player in college. So he's really not, as you seen when he was 2 yards away from the first down last year in New Orleans doing this, he's not an offensive player. He's tough. But, I mean, we used to have some great fullbacks who that's all they did their whole life was play fullback and be lead blockers. Rosie Nix would be good, but you want your fullback to have the same vision as your halfback. And Rosie Nix, you're not going to follow. Other than short yardage, you ain't following Rosie Nix. Who knows where he's going?
Well, right now,
he ain't got no vision.
Right now, none of our backs are following anybody because our offensive linemen are getting pushed backwards. In both games that I've watched, and I didn't see the Patriots game past my bedtime, but against Seattle, and the Steelers' offensive line spent more time backtracking than they did driving, and that's Steeler football, and that's what they've got to get back to, and then they've got to commit to the running game. And what's his name? Randy Fichtner said, he got scared of running a certain running play because it got stuffed twice. Well, you know what? You keep going to it until you get it right. It's not the play call that didn't work; it's the execution.
That's right. Well, it's been fun to be back. Thanks, Smokin' Jim. Thanks, Chip Hayner. Appreciate all the kind words. Thanks to all of you for watching our show. We kept our streak alive. Smokin' Jim, October 11th will be our anniversary of 8 years.
Happy birthday!
It's not my birthday. It's October 11th when we started this show 8 years ago. So we keep on doing it.
And I've been here since episode 3.
Yes, and thank you guys. Appreciate it. Please stay Joey strong.